My name is Sally Dickinson. It is May 14th, 2008, and the interview is taking place in Salisbury, Maryland. Mrs. Quillen, will you please state your full name and your date of birth?
Mary Frances Phillips Quillen, and my date of birth is February the 28th, 1920. And I was born in Lewis, Delaware.
Okay, Lewis.
And I went to Hog Island when I was about 6 to 8 months old.
What brought your family out to Hog Island?
What brought me down there, my father was in the Coast Guard, and he wanted to go down back home to where he lived. And he went down there, and he went in the store business. And my mother was postmaster down there. She made a postmaster. And they had that all in our store. And he lived there we all lived there together and everything. But the Coast Guard was right next door to us. The last Coast Guard station was built right there by us. And that was one we were in when the storm was going on. And so Daddy had been after the storm was over and all, he decided he wanted to go back in the Coast Guard again and stay a while, because he was over on Cobb's Island. That was just the island next to us, right across the little inlet there, with a chunk of shell, a shell right to it from our house. So anyway, Daddy went back in there. He stayed back 2 years. Got out again, because he was very well thought of, and they would let him do that for some reason. They liked him, I guess. But anyway, we lived there in the store, and we had the post office in the store, and we got along great. And we served the lighthouse people, the 3 homes in there, and we served the Coast Guard station, all of them. We took care of all of them. We even had coal. We ordered coal from the mainland, and to burn on the island. And Daddy would order a half a beef at a time. He wasn't what do you call it, a butcher, but honey, he could cut it better than any butcher I ever saw. And our dog would sit there and wait for Daddy to throw him a piece every once in a while of the meat when we was cutting it.
Now you said now tell me about your father and your mother. We'll start with your father. Now your father, you said where was he originally from?
He was born on Hog Island in the first lighthouse home, the home of the first lighthouse building.
What was his full name?
Stanley Phillips, and he hated the word Laurie. He said, I don't know where they got that from. But he was Stanley Phillips.
And did his parents, were they born on Hog Island?
Grandmother Phillips was born on Hog Island, yes. Grandfather was born in Wachapreague. His father was born in Wachapreague. And they met when they were children down on the island, going back and forth with a boat and things like that. They met that way. And they got married, and they had my dad, and they had a deaf daughter. There was the only daughter they had. They called them deaf and dumb, but they were deaf mutes.
Yes.
She went to Staunton, Virginia school, and she graduated from there, and she could crochet anything you wanted. She could knit. She could build a house or anything. She was the most talented person I ever knew. And she taught me to sign before I ever learned to talk. And when I started talking, time for me to start talking, my mother said, Frances, you're supposed to talk now. You can talk. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to use my hands. And she had a time to get me to talk. But I could talk, and I've never stopped. But
now, what year was your father born?
Oh, my Lord. 1896, I think it was, something like that. And my mom was born up here in Salisbury, over in Cambridge, really. Hooper's Island. She was born on Hooper's Island from Cambridge. And grandfather was a minister, and that's why she was up there. And she met my daddy when she went down on the island when she was 7 years old. He preached down there for a while. And then there were kids in school, and kids in Sunday school together. And when Daddy got old enough to leave the island, he came up to Salisbury. And he worked for Mr. Tom Mitchell that had a brickyard here in Salisbury. And Mom was working in the I forgot where she was working in. I believe the shirt factory for a while. And they were only 16 and 18. And after when they decided to get married, they ran away to get married down to Princess Anne. And they got married down there, and grandmother sent a suitcase and trunk down for her. But they didn't have to run away because grandfather wanted him in the family. He was a good man. My father was a very likable man. Everybody loved him. And he was a great swimmer, too.
Now, and so tell me a little bit about your mom. So she was also born late
She was born in Hog Island, and they come back to Salisbury, and they went to Cherry Point, where her home place was there, because her grandfather built the home place.
Is that where you were saying that?
That's where we were living.
Okay. All right.
And when we came up here, I couldn't climb steps very well, and I was getting to the point where I wasn't very active in the kitchen anymore, and I just was slowing down a lot. And I had a lot of weight on me, too. Mother was, when she was down on the island, she was a postmaster, like I said, and she had a girl that worked with her, Lola. You met Lola Dowdy.
Yes.
Well, Lola was Mother's postmistress. I talked to Lola the other day. She told me y'all were there. And we just had a lot of fun. And when Mother and Daddy would take 2 or 3 days off, if he would get off in the station so he could come up, they would come up to Salisbury, and Lola and I take care of the store, and my Aunt Sarita, the deaf lady, and we took care of the store and the house and all, and we had a big time. But my mother was a great lady. I mean, she was a very good lady and very pretty lady. And but the man came. What was his name? He died not too long ago. Postmaster General of the United States. You remember that?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Oh, I wish you could remember that. Farley, Jim Farley. Yeah, Postmaster Jim Farley. And he came down on the island, and Mother wanted to be the postmaster. He wanted Mother to be the postmaster because he went up and saw it on the other end of the island, and he said it was just a little too far away. They should have it in there near the docks so that the mail could go out easier and quicker.
Sure.
And so he sent her over to Norfolk, Virginia, and got her in some classes and taught her how to do it. And then he went with her and got her papers all straightened. The Coast Guard guys helped her. A lot of them were smart, and they helped her to get it. So she got the post office. And we had a little stand, like they have in the stores and places where they have a post office, on the counter, and had little boxes on it. When some of them had keys, you could lock your box.
How much would it be to mail a letter back then? Do you remember?
About 3 cents.
About 3 cents.
Yeah. And I used to do all this stamping, and my son works with his computer, and he got a card I got in here. I want to show you in a few minutes. He called me. He said, "Mom, were you still stamping just before you left the island?" And I said, "Yes, I was. I stamped all of Mother's letters for her because I helped her a lot after I was 7 years old, doing things like that." And he said, "Well, I've got some on the computer that a doctor sent." And he ordered a whole box of them because he was down there visiting, and he loved it so much. He wanted the Broadwater sign put on it. You know what I mean? The signature put on it.
Yeah.
So she did. She stamped them all for it, and he paid her. So Philip bought me one of them, and he got one. And
well, I imagine having a job as postmistress and a store; those were pretty good jobs to have.
Yeah, and he was in a Coast Guard too most of the time.
That's right.
Because when he was in a Coast Guard on the island, he could stay right over to the house most of the time.
Right.
Because they weren't that busy, unless it was a bad wreck or something like that. And when I was 7 years old, I used to go down to the docks back of our house where they had a dock go down from the Coast Guard station to where they took their, what do they call them, a little cove in there where they would dig it out, put their boats in and keep them safe, Harbor, like a little harbor. They dug it out. And they said, "Frances, you want to go out in the boat with us tonight to watch up and down the ocean they would watch for the Germans and the Russians and all would be coming down. And if they were going down that, so they would keep right on by instead of stopping and getting our fish and things, you know. So they were going on down south. But they had to watch them every night. And I would get in the boat, and honey, I get it there in the picky boat. They had a picky boat then, a little gray boat, and it was beautiful. I sit on the front, up on the front seat, and ride out there in the ocean with them, and I would never know you ever were in the ocean because she just slid right across the waves. And I mean, there were some waves out there. But, and they would take me with them. Mother let me go with them.
What year was that when they were looking out for Germans and Russians and worried about them?
When I was about 7 years old, what was that made?
So the late 20s or something?
In the 20s, yeah, 27, late 27, 26. And I'll tell you another thing. You remember the Akron, the big dirigible, the smaller one, the Akron was. You don't remember it, I'm sure, because you're not that old. But it used to hover over our island. And sometimes it would come down, you know, on the beach line. It would follow the ocean down.
Oh, like the big blimp?
Blimp, yeah. And it came over our store and hovered that day. And they called down to Dad on a microphone or some kind of thing they had and asked him if he had any groceries in there that they could get. So they sent this ladder down, but they sent that guy down with it. We couldn't go up on the ladder because they're dangerous, I guess, for us. And he came down so far, he didn't come all the way down with it. They couldn't go down that far. And he put it down to Daddy, and Daddy caught it, threw it down to Daddy, what he wanted. So Daddy put it in a bag, in a basket, and put a rope on it, and put something on the end of it. I think it must have been a brick bat or something for the guy. He kept pitching it up until the guy finally got it up there. And they got it up inside of the plane, the dirigible. And, you know, she went up in Delaware. No, New Jersey. She was up around New Jersey, in Cape May, New Jersey, somewhere in that area. And she blew up. And it hurt us to death because we had pictures of her. I got pictures of her. Right, hovering over the store. And my aunt walking down behind it, taking pictures of her back too. We got pictures of her doing it too. So we had a lot of fun.
Getting back, when you were, tell me about your childhood out on Hog Island. Like what you would, first, how about what you do for fun and for
what
play?
We did for fun? Well, we played out in the road. We had horses, cattle, sheep, all were wild. They would come down mornings when we was at school would open up. They knew that school was going to be opening up. They would come down on the end of the island. I was scared to death of them, but I loved them. And they would come right down on the end of the island and they'd chew the grass until they see us start going up, and they would follow us right up the road to school. Then when the afternoon, when we got out of school, they'd do the same thing up to the school, and they would follow us right back down home. Because we all walked, most of us came from the southern end. Now, there was some northern people up there. A lot of people had homes up there, but there was more children down on the south end, really, that they followed with. But we played in the fields, we played in the grass, and I went clamming when I was 2 years old. My grandfather made me a little clam rake, about that long, and put two little tongs on it, wherever got them from, wherever it did, but there must have been a nail screwed up or something. And he showed me how to sun a clam on this beach. They looked like a keyhole. And I would go around scratching that, and I would take them, and I'd get a whole bucket full of clams. But he said, if their mouth is open, don't pick them up. Let me pick them up, because they might bite down on you. You know, they close their mouth, it would hurt them, my little fingers.
Right.
So that's what I did when I was 7 years old, 2 years old, between 2 and 3. And I learned to do that, and he would take me fishing with him sometimes. My daddy would take me fishing, and then, of course, the boys would take me out on the boats. They even took me out on the lifeboat one day, and they told me they were going to turn her over. I said, oh, no, you don't. I'm going home. So they took me back home. But grandmother had shucking houses down on the end of the island, and they had a lot of children down there, little black children, down there. We played with them a lot. But we were busy all the time, because I was busy in the store. I could wait on them for candies, and the Coast Guard boys would come in, though. That was what was so bad. they would hold her hand out and I give them a piece of candy. Mother caught me doing it. She said, look, we're not going to make no money as long as you're giving it to them.
Right.
And I used to take it to school. And I used to smoke when I was maybe 5 and 6 and 7 years old with Srita in the toilet. Back we didn't have an inside toilet. And my great-grandmother came by. She came around the back of the building and came into the house. She said, Stanley, come quick. The toilet's on fire. And it was Srita in there with a cigarette in there, each one of us. And I was 6 years old and she was about 19 or 20 or something like that. And I smoked for a long time after that. But I never let nobody know it. I mean, I still made the store. That was fun. But they burned my tongue. We had fun. But on the 4th of July picnic, everybody came to the island then.
Oh yeah, tell me about 4th of July.
Well, everybody on the island at one time or other built these big tables, and they had them so they could take them apart. And they had trees that they kept standing, and they had a wood put around them to make the holders, you know, to put the board across. And they put the lemonade and things like that on that, and the pies and the cakes on those things between the trees all around in there. And these tables, I think they had about 2 or 3 of them. And we kept all that stuff in the end of the parsonage. Under the floor of the parsonage, they had like almost like a basement, but it wasn't quite built that way, but I mean, it would protect them anyway. And they had a big stove, like you use in a great big restaurant, I guess. And the chimney went right straight up in between 2 trees, and they had a wire in there so it wouldn't blow away or fall over. And they kept the treetop cleared out, you know, so that the smoke could go out. And some of them didn't have enough tablecloths, so we took sheets, bed sheets. We made them wash them and clean them up. We put them on the tables. Yeah. And we didn't have paper plates then, you know, and we all had to take what china we had to go to serve the tables with. They cooked all kinds of the seafood. They also had beef and lamb, and had mutton. Is the big sheep, you know, the mutton is the big sheep. That's like the bone down the back, you know, like a pork chops. And that was good. It smelled bad. But the little lamb chops were good. But it was just everything. You know what I mean? We just did everything. And people came down by boatloads.
So people came from the mainland over for the...
They came from New York, Washington, places that were well known, that had visited the island for hunting sometimes. We had a man who came down there one time and brought a dog. And he fell in love with us all down there. So he stayed at our house with Daddy and Mom and I. And he had his dog with him, and he was I was trying to think of the dogs, what kind of dogs they were. Chesapeake Bay Retrievers. I couldn't think. This is what my trouble is sometimes. I'm getting old. But anyway, we had, he brought Jewel down, the dog, and the dog loved us because they stayed right with us, you know. So Daddy said, but a year later, I can't think of their names. I wish I could remember. Cliff Mall from Lewis, Delaware. He was the one who brought them down. And when he got there, when he called us, he said, Stanley, would you like to have some puppies to raise? Daddy said, sure it was. Jewel had some more puppies? He said, yeah. She's not had them, but I want you to have them down there on the island. Let them be born on the island. So he brought her down, and he left her, and she stayed right with us, just like she was our dog. And she had 13 puppies. Aww. And everyone had curly hair except 2. And their hair was sort of wavy. But our dog, when we picked out the bunch, you put your hand on her back neck, because the dog's name. I got pictures of him too. And he was beautiful. He was an auburn shade color hair, you know. But he was my daddy's boy. He always wanted a boy, so he was my daddy's boy. When we got in the truck, I would go with Daddy to deliver groceries, sometimes to the Lighthouse, you know, and to the Coast Guard. I would get in there, but Nick would make me stayed there until he got in there first.
Oh.
He pushed me right over until he got in there first. But he had to sit with Daddy. He was just one of the family.
One of the, right.
But Daddy sold 2 of them, but then he said, I'm not going to take his money. So he sold the rest of them, let him take them back home to sell them, because they didn't go very well on the island. They didn't have that kind of money to buy. They were expensive.
Right.
I think they were only $100 then, but they were $500 and $600 when he had them up there selling them in Lewis and places like that.
Right.
They were very expensive dogs at that time.
So back to the 4th of July. Was it a money raiser? Like, did someone said maybe it raised money for the church, or was it merely just a celebration? Like
It was for our church and our schools.
Okay.
And our ministers.
Yeah,
and of course we had a parsonage too. That taken care of all of that for a whole year, every year. And we never had a bad day that I ever remember. And the island people used to say, God, I hope the island don't sink, all these people on it. It was the truth. It was hundreds of people came. Wow. I think there was 1,000 one year came down there. They called it 1,000. Maybe they counted it a little bit long. Maybe, I don't know, because I was just a child then. But that's what they did. Wait, my messenger.
And did they have fireworks?
Did they do what?
Were there fireworks back then? Was that a typical part of 4th of July in the 20s? And
what, firecrackers and things like that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we had firecrackers. We sold them in the store.
Okay. Oh.
And we shot them out in the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we all went on the beach and shot them.
Oh.
And that was fun. We went on the beach for a lot of things. We went on the beach in the summer and in the winter too, if the weather was permitting. The guys had 4 metal posts. They kept where they would keep all right and kept clean. And they had chicken wire, little bitty wire they called it, little holes.
Yeah.
And they would go out and catch a bushel of clams or a bushel of crabs or whatever they wanted and dump it right on top of that. Dump it right out on that wire. And they would steam it from the heat from this on the beach, And that's where we did it, on the beach, because we all could get out there together, And we would eat them, and sometimes they would say, they'd put some sugar on an oyster for somebody to see if they could swallow it. Well, once in a while, we swallow it, and they'd kill him, but they got it down. But it was fun. I mean, we just made our own fun. And we had high hills there, and we had the whole beach was lined with trees all the way up and down the beach. And some of the trees, the erosion was getting bad, and they were cutting out under these trees. The tree roots was all hanging down, and we played all right underneath those tree roots. No wonder we all weren't killed.
Right.
But like I said, it was just heaven on earth. Like we used to say, we had lived on heaven, didn't even know it. That's right. But we made good money on those meals because everybody donated. We even sold pies and cakes. The women worked for a whole week cooking and making things. They had fudge, made fudge pans full of fudge and peanut butter fudge and black walnut fudge. And they made all kinds of cakes, and they were selling about a slice or about a whole cake or by a quarter of a cake, Yeah. And pies, they sold pies, and each one of them had a counter. It's like I said, on the trees, They could all they had to do was put new nails in there for the next year. And it was just great.
That's neat.
And they didn't have paper napkins, and some of them had cloth napkins, and some of us made napkins, out of cloth. We cut up a sheet and made napkins for them. But most of the time, they just had whatever they had in their pocket, I guess, and wiped their mouth. They didn't care those days.
And tell me about Christmas too.
Christmas?
How was Christmas celebrated?
Well, I want to tell you the prettiest Christmas I think I ever saw in my life, and I've never seen no tree look like it again. We didn't have electricity or no telephones, but the Coast Guard had the electricity, and so did the lighthouse, because they had generators, but we all couldn't afford them. So I used to go up to the lighthouses and get my bath lots of times, because I knew the girls up there, and I'd go right in there and they'd let me take a bath. And I went over to Coast Guard sometimes, and they would take a ball of cotton and put a piece of cotton in the hole so they wouldn't peep in there. But they never did, but they used to tease me they were going to, and I was scared they would, and I pushed it in the hole. But anyway, what was I talking about then?
Yeah, taking a bath. Oh, Christmas, the prettiest Christmas tree you ever saw.
That morning, I got up at 4 o'clock and went downstairs, and Mother and Daddy had trimmed my tree. They always trimmed it. They were our Santa Claus. They trimmed our tree, you know. We had Santa Claus in there until we got so ashamed of ourselves letting them think we had, you know, didn't know anything about Santa Claus. I used to go and peep in my boxes, you know, that I know it's not a Santa Claus. But anyway, this tree was a great big fat tree. He got off of Grandmother's land on the island. We got all of our trees from her land. And this was, I don't know, it was a great big tree. And it was solid full of real bright, shiny balls. And back in those years, they had beautiful Christmas decorations. You know what I mean? There were all that thin glass stuff, or whatever it was. It was shiny. Anyway, it looked like glass. Yeah. And we had little candles things on there with lights on it. We couldn't keep them on very long. We had to be in there when we used them. And we had tinsel on it. And Daddy and Mother had lit the 2 big lamps out of our living room and put them in the center of the room on our table that we used to use in the center. And that's still up here to my daughter's house somewhere. And when I got downstairs, they lit the lamps. And that tree none of these electric lights has ever made them any more beautiful. Oh, that was beautiful. They just danced. Everything was just moving and dancing. And it was really beautiful. But it lasted for a long time. I mean, you know, making believe rather that we didn't know. And one time I went to school, and we had the school doctor come through. And I was a big girl then. I was a lot taller than most of the children because I grew up to be tall, but I'm not now, came my back. But anyway, the doctor came in that day and he gave everybody a needle. And when he came to me, he gave me a needle and I passed out. And Arnold Smith, Lola Dowdy's brother, and he was my age, but he was a little old tiny thing. He picked me up in his arms and took me down 10 steps because he was so afraid I was going to die or something. I guess he was scared. But when I got better, he tried to help me back up the steps and he couldn't get me back up. But that was fun. I mean, something like that, you know what I mean? We had things like that happen to us in school. And we would sit there and make spitballs. Have you ever heard of spitballs? You know, when you blow them through we'd make them roll up a piece of paper. If we didn't like that teacher sometimes, we'd blow out one of them for her. We got our hands paddled with a little yardstick, you know, just a small one.
Okay.
Right. And one little boy, one of her little brothers, Jack, he would go up there every time anybody had a hand bit. He wanted his done too. He wanted his done for the attention. Right. Yeah.
So tell me about school out on Hog Island. So you started when you were, did they do first grade? Was that the
I went in the first grade. I went through to the 6th grade on the Hog Island. We had good teachers over there. We really did. They were the Regan girls, some of them from over on the Willis Wharf area. And there's 2 sisters. And then we had Alice that came down, and she married Lola's brother. And they took our store over, and they took Mother's post office over because they took Alma down there because she was a school teacher and she was educated. And she soon picked it up, and Mother helped her a lot before she left. She had to stay about 3 months after I left. Alma, Mother stayed down there. But
were your classes multi-age? So you would be with first graders was there one teacher and the whole class school?
We had a one-room school the first year. Okay. Was all we had. But the next year they had built us a brand new school with 2 rooms, and we had up to 3rd grade, and then on up to the 6th grade in the other room, and the two teachers at that time. The other time we just would have one for the one room, you know. But you know what we did with the school when we got rid of it? We put it down on one of Grandmother's lots. She gave us a lot to put it on. And it was a really nice room, size room. They painted it red, what do you call it? Barnyard red, and trimmed it with white paint. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I can envision it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you'd heard of them, but anybody else had told you about that or not. And we had a dance in there anytime we wanted. The kids and the family and everybody went. And some of us girls would sit in the window, and the little boys would be outside, and they would try to get up there to our hand, and talk to us. We all had boyfriends when we were 6 and 7 years old. It was just one of those things. We were all close there on the island.
Right.
And
so if the school went up through 6th grade, what did children do once they got past 6th grade? Did they go work?
Stayed right home. They never went to school. But our camp was coming up here, and see, the storm came up that year that I was due to come up here. And when I came up here from the state of Virginia to Maryland, you had to go back a grade.
Okay.
The last grade you were in.
Okay.
So I had to redo that. Now that upset me very much for having to go through that again.
Right.
Because that put me back in school, in high school. Now I think that's why I quit high school.
Right.
I quit about the 9th or 10th grade. I don't even remember. I think the first month in the 10th grade, I believe. We only had 11 grades then anyway. But I just got tired of it. I mean, I was disgusted when they brought me up here and said I had to go back like that.
I bet.
Because I knew everything they asked, me to do in the 6th grade up here. And it was boring, and it was bothersome too, you know what I mean? And I said, it's a shame, and then when I got in high school, I didn't know from nothing anyway. I didn't like high school. It was too much. I mean, I should have went when I was at the right age to enter in there, what I wanted to do. But my dad had died then too, he hadn't died yet because I was in Ocean City. See, I went to Ocean City too for a while. We went down there and stayed. Daddy was transferred up here so he'd be close by us. And he used to drive this truck. He had a nice truck. He kept the old one, left the old one on the island when he left there, so I could use it in the outlets in the store. And but he would come over from Ocean City to get me to take me down to Shad Point for about a mile down the road, so I wouldn't have to walk if it was real cold or raining or anything, Right. Just to get it down here to be with Mother while I was gone.
Right.
From school. But
so were you on Hog Island during the storm, the 33 storm?
Oh yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that
Oh,
day or day before.
Well, my daddy was stationed over to Cobb's Island at that time, and when we nobody knew anything about the storm coming up. There was no notification to any of the Coast Guard's areas. No, I went right up the coast, right on the ocean side. And one morning, about 5 o'clock, Mother hollered for me to come downstairs real quick. She said, it's a bad storm out here. The tide's in the house. And the Coast Guard guys come over and got us. And anyway, when they come in that morning, I had on, you don't remember, but I'm sure your mother could tell you about it, or some of the family that's older than I am, or old as I am. We had those slacks then, but they were 100-inch legs, and each leg was 100-inch. And when I went out there to go with the boys, I had both arms full because we took all the non-perishable products over there to the Coast Guard so we could feed them, because we didn't know how long we were going to have to stay, because it was an awful looking storm coming in there, and that ocean was coming in then, knocking us all over the place. And when I got out there, and the wind gave a real hard puff, and I stepped up on this little hill to step over to the inside the Coast Guard yard. When I did, the wind went up those 2 legs, and the boy grabbed me right to see the pants and pulled me back down.
That took you away.
Yeah, it took me right up in the air. I would have been still flying around, I guess, if I had. But anyway, after this, when we got over to the station, the guys, they were still bringing stuff back to the store. They had those grass bags like they used to have. I think that's what they call them, grass bags. They used to get stuff with them from the stores. Like fruit, they would come down in them, and meats, they would wrap them up in paper and then put them in them. Because Daddy dealt from Salisbury. Most of our stuff from our store came from Salisbury. Because Mother knew a lot of people up here that sold things like that and had stores. And they delivered down on the train, and we would pick it up. And another thing, I used to get on the train at 6 years old and come to Salisbury by myself.
When you were 6?
Yeah, the Coast Guard would bring me over, because Mother wouldn't let me go in the mail bush, because she's afraid Al would be drinking that morning a little bit or something, and I'd fall overboard. So the Coast Guard guys would take me over to the mainland, And they always, but most of them kept their cars on the mainland there, and they rented little garages. We did too one time. Our car burned up, but we got a new one, you know, so we could come up to Salisbury in. But anyway, I forgot.
Take you to the train. Coast Guard take you to the train.
Oh, and the boys would take me up to the train in Exmoor, from Willis Wharf to Exmoor. They'd put me on the train, and they would say, "Are you the conductor that takes care of this little girl when she comes up here sometime?" If it was a different guy that didn't know. He said, "Yes, this is Frances, and I know her very well. Her mother brings her up here and lets her go up to Salisbury, and her aunt picks her up." And he says, "She eats all the way up to Salisbury," because he goes around that thing, you know, and I'm eating the whole way up. I had money in my pocketbook, but he was telling him, he said, "Well, she told me to tell you that her money is still pinned inside of her little underwear, and so nobody won't bother her, and please keep her in a seat by herself."
Right.
So they did, and they watched me, and they took care of me all the way from there. That was a long ways then,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Took about 3 or 4 hours, I think, on the train then.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed every minute of it, and I want to go all the time. Come up
Oh.
to see Grandma, and get on the train and come up to see Grandma.
I bet that was a big
But
treat.
when after we got into the Coast Guard, everything had been beaten up in the basement. The water had gotten in there that much, it tore up everything in the basement. They couldn't cook, they couldn't do nothing. So we couldn't heat anything, but we could eat canned beans. They were cold, but we'd eat them. And crackers and breads and things like that. And we had coals and things. They weren't cold, but we drank them. Glad to get them because we couldn't get any water. But we stayed over there 3 days and 3 nights, I guess it was. 3 nights and 4 days, I guess it was, because we came home on the 4th day.
Mhm.
And we took turns sleeping. The guys would sleep for 2 hours, and then we'd always sleep for 2 hours. Because they had just enough beds for them, you know, for the Coast Guard guys, and they took turns sleeping. And some of them would sleep on the floor and let us have the bed, you know, the two of us in a bed or something like that. Their beds were small, but we slept. We made it all right. But the storm, when those waves came in, the Coast Guard station was 32 foot high. And the guys went out there, wrapped up, one of them did, and had something he shot up in the air. And he said it was 42-foot waves over the building. And they broke every time right in the center of the roof of the Coast Guard building. Why it was not torn up, I don't know. God was with us, you better believe it. It was a brand new Coast Guard station.
Right.
But it was in bad position, I'm telling you, with this storm breaking. And when the waves come over the station, we could not see anything. It was pitch dark. You were looking right at nothing but water.
Huh.
And it was really pathetic to see what was happening, but we couldn't do nothing about it.
Right.
We could even see the fish once in a while come up in the water, you know, where they were trying to get somewhere themselves. And my mother was just like this. But honey, I was enjoying it because I was just a child, 13, and it was something I had never seen before or heard of before, you know.
Right.
But we survived. We never lost anybody. But one man, that was my great uncle Tom Phillips, my grandfather's brother, he got killed, but I thought he got killed down around Watcher Creek area. But I'm not sure on that one. I'm really not sure.
What was the mood like during the storm? What was the people, like the grown-ups? You said your mom was
Well, a lot of them went to the lighthouse tower
okay.
and stayed in there. They had one big room in there, and they all went in there. I don't think they hardly had maybe 2 or 3 chairs in there. If they had that many.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the people up on the north end didn't have that much power from the storm as we had on our south end. It cut right across the south end,
Okay.
and that south end is gone. But the north end is made up,
Okay.
and they got beautiful trees on there now, they say, and they're making like a
Umbrella?
well, you walk right down it like a cove, a cave.
Okay.
Yeah, like you're going through a cave. You know what I mean?
Oh.
The trees are going right over each
Oh,
other.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
That's what they tell me now. I haven't seen any of it. Well, I did. I see a picture in the paper of it. I think I got it in one of these boxes.
And so, how soon after the storm did you all move off, and what was that process
Well,
like?
we came out of the store. I mean, out of the Coast Guard finally, And we went over home, and the Coast Guard guys went with us over home to our house, to our store. Well, we had 18 inches of mud, and Mother had just finished filling. They had just had the ice cream box filled, and it took 12 boxes in there, 12 5-gallon cans in it. Well, I didn't want no ice cream for a long time because it was turned right upside down in the store. And it was mud, red, and blue, and green, and white, and every color, where it had melted and run all over the place, you know.
Yeah.
And they had to work in there, I guess, about 3 weeks or more to clean it up so we could use it to store again. But we had, the shelves were still standing in there. They, of course, they were made on the wall. And most of the stuff that was up high wasn't messed up. It was damp, and the things in there.
Yeah.
But the mother brought most of the stuff up here after she finally came up. She brought it up here and gave to the little children that were going to school. They had gloves, little gloves, and little galoshes, and raincoats and things like that. We sold everything, even lipstick and perfume and all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, neat.
And but it was great. It was just really great down there. Everything that was bad was even good. It was great. You know, it was something to live with.
The lighthouse light in your bed.
Oh, when I slept upstairs home, I had a bedroom that faced the ocean. And the lighthouse come by every night, all night long, you know how they do. Well, I had my head down to the foot of my bed so I could watch the ocean. When the moonlight was on it, it was absolutely beautiful. It looked like diamonds all over the top of the ocean, and it just broke up there, and I could hear it. And I laid there and watched that until everybody fell off the bed 2 or 3 times watching it, because I just couldn't go to sleep because it was so beautiful. But when the lighthouse would go by, I got used to watching that, and then I would lay down in bed and I would lay there and watch it go right, and I would go to sleep. I said, no wonder I'm nuts. But I really enjoyed it because it was beautiful.
Yes. Oh, that does sound very
And I
so
think
relaxing.
you had to love it. It's just like me with nursing. I love nursing, but I never made one because I didn't finish school and get the education. But when I left the hospital, I was one of their best. They said one of the best nurses in the hospital.
I bet you were.
Because I loved it.
You're a people
I
person.
love people. I'm a people lover. But it's just, it's so many stories to tell. I just can't get them all together.
What about, do you have any memory of when they started to move houses off the island?
Oh,
Like when-
yes. They had, right in front of our house, our store business, because our house was in the back of the store. We had four bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs and a big living room and a kitchen. And the kitchen was big enough like for a dining room. And every time Daddy would paint the floor, he'd put boards down, and I would walk right across that board and step on that floor every time. He said, I'm going to make you paint it next time. I was just a little girl then, you know. But anyway, they had all these posts out there in front of us. They were, that black stuff on them, tar. And the Coast Guard used them for a lot of things. They made fences and had their white fence out there, too. They were going to fence in something over there. So they used them, and they rolled them down onto the marshland and put boards under them so they wouldn't sink, you know, this way, and they rolled them on that way on the boards. And they put the houses on the board, on the top of it, and they rolled them up to the, you know, to the house, and got the house settled to the edge of the bay, you know, the bay for them to pick them up. And they leave them that night, and the next morning they'd be down there with their monitors and roll them on the board of the monitor, with the monitor. And the first one that left there, I can't remember their names. Dowdy was their last name, but I can't remember the first name. But their house was right in front of our house, and they moved their house first. And that night, we all went over there and had a square dance in their house, because she had taken all the furniture over on the mainland beforehand, and stored it over there until they got the house moved over. But several homes was moved, and then, of course, after we left, they stayed down there about 6 or 7 years, a lot of people did. Now, Yvonne was born there at that time, because I thought she was born off of Hog Island, but she was born on there, because she was born after I left Hog Island. And so anyway, And they went over to the Willis Wharf, and they bought land down there. They call it Little Hog Island down in that area now.
That's right.
And our house was over there. I don't know how they ever got it over there, because it was a big store and had another storeroom to it, and then the house was on the back. So how they ever got that over there, I don't know, because I never saw it.
Okay. Now, is that house or
It's
store?
down to Willis Wharf, and
And-
I think Ruby Simpson and her husband bought it.
Okay.
That was May Phillips. Did you ever meet May Phillips? I expect not, because I think she been there for quite a few years.
That's right.
But she's Sadie Phillips and May Phillips, and
I think we might have her oral history. It was before I came along, but I remember
Uh-huh.
seeing her name. Yeah.
yeah. Now they were all my cousins.
Okay.
The Phillipses were.
Okay.
Yeah, and my dad's father's brother's children. Most
Okay.
of them were. One of them was named Laban Phillips, and
Who made the furniture? That was carpet.
oh, the furniture. This furniture here. My great great grandfather built this furniture. This is a
That
washstand, and I got the other piece in the bedroom, which is a chest of drawers. You know, I mean, it's a regular bureau. And I had the bed, but we didn't have no place for it, so I just left it, and it wasn't very good shape. But this was in perfect condition. And that lamp was my grandmother's in her kitchen, and I brought it up here, and we made it into an electric lamp. And the girl was cleaning the other day in here, and I hadn't let nobody touch it, and I hadn't looked, she was going across. I said, honey, put that lamp down, please.
That's right.
I was afraid she'd break it, because that's very old.
That's a treasure.
And it's worth, I had some of my stuff appraised, and that was $200 and some just for that lamp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Without the top on it. Without
Right.
the cover on it.
Right.
I wish you'd done this maybe 10 years ago, and I could pronounce my words and know what I was talking about.
Oh, listen, you are doing great. Wow. Are you? Let me ask you just a couple more questions. Can you how far can you trace your family back
To the island.
to the island? So,
Well, the grandmother Dowdy and grandfather Daddy were both the furthest that I can really take. Now, grandmother Daddy was born in Eastville, I think. And then she moved when she was 16 over to the island, and she and grandfather got married then over there, because she met him over there one time. I guess they went over visiting or something. And they lit that first lighthouse tower over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the black lighthouse tower, he lit that too. But he had his son with him that day, Uncle Albert, which wasn't a very good favor to none of the family, because he wasn't, I shouldn't say nothing about him bad. So no one would be nice. But anyway, he wasn't really associated with us very well.
mm-hmm.
In fact, his mother was the one that owned our store, and he had it first, and then he wanted to go to the mainland, over there to Willis Wharf, and have a store business.
Right.
And so he gave it up. But he didn't want grandmother to run it to Daddy, because she didn't want him to charge him any rent. So he charged Daddy rent on it, but Daddy finally got straightened out with grandmother with it, and he didn't have to pay any rent on it. He just paid her something so much every month, whatever you want to give her, just as a gift, because he would take it from her. Uncle Albert would.
Mm-hmm.
But he would never bother me or anything, and I used to visit him, and I got a picture of them in their yard with my grandmother. My great grandmother weren't you with us? It was just Philip and Sybil. Philip and Ellen. I get it right in a minute. I name everybody in the family sometimes before I get the right one.
Right. Everyone seemed to know how to do a lot of things back then. They were
He cut his
resourceful.
own trees in his own yard and made that himself, every bit of it.
Mm.
And it's made just like, made a whole lot better than some of these contractors make.
Right. Right.
Carpenters make nowadays.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the one in the bedroom is just like it, only has a mirror and a top on it, and has 3 drawers on it. And I had to have some new pieces put under the drawers because they had rotted and fell down.
Right. Right.
Let's see, they're way over 100 years old, almost 200 years old.
Yeah.
His name was Aiden Carpenter. He was
Aiden?
my great-grandmother's father.
Okay.
She was a carpenter before she married grandfather Daddy.
Okay.
She was one of the richest women on the Eastern Shore. Didn't know a dime from a nickel.
Is that
Went to school 7 days.
What did she do to
She had shucking hazes. She bought
Okay.
shucking hazes. They bought all that land that they could get on the island. They
Okay.
sold a lot of land. The family did, but I think I got maybe $1,000 out of some of it, but that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they all were ahead of me, And,
But she was a real businesswoman.
Yeah.
Sound like.
but she didn't know she couldn't know her name when she saw it.
Hmm.
But you couldn't fool her with money. She could feel it in her hand. I think is that with imagination, I guess, or something. But she could tell. There's a blind man down here that used to sell fruit, and he could tell every time. And he used to worry me to death because people would give him $10 bills. I was afraid he'd give them too much or
Right.
something back, or $5 or $10 back.
Right.
But he didn't.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I used to watch him.
Well, Miss Quillen, thank you so much.
Well,
This
is
is-
there anything else you'd like to know? I mean, I've got anything else you want to tell? Want me to tell?
Well, I think this was a great. We learned a lot from just hearing
Oh,
your
good.
hearing
I'm
your
glad
stories.
it's worth your trip, maybe, anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us in your home.
Well,
too,
because
and-
it's, well, I love to talk about Hog Island. I could talk all day long on it. And anything else, when I get talking, I get tired, but I do get mixed up a little bit once in a while. But like I said, that's just a natural thing, because I'm so loaded. My doctor said, Frances, your brain is so loaded, you can't expel it fast enough. That's what he told me.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're welcome.